Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our 8th My Ocean story. I am Christine Stortini, and this is Claudia Hurtado. And today we have Rachel Kirkham with us today to tell her ocean story. Thank you so much for joining us, Rachel.
Thank
Um,
you so much for having me.
Thank you. So, Rachel is an intuitive healer. She lives in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. She is also a surf instructor, avid surfer, ocean dwelling person, lives by the sea. And she also just got her certification for ocean rescue. And has like a whole bunch of really amazing things happening in her life, living out in Cape Breton on the ocean. So super excited to hear your ocean story, how it all started.
Yeah.
So I
Uh,
guess we can jump right into the first question if you want.
Great.
So the first question is, it's pretty broad, but what does the ocean mean to you?
Yeah, there's so many things, but definitely the divine feminine, the divine mother. I feel such like a healing, soothing, and it's really an interactive relationship, right? It's like not only are we receiving like her beauty and her like it seems like it's just healing for everybody you meet, right? Everybody loves the ocean, so like you're giving back. There's this relationship that happens, and so
Mm-hmm.
when I think about the ocean, I think about that relationship, and I think about what she's taught me over the years and what she continues to teach me just by witnessing her, and I think that's a really powerful thing.
Yeah. And you're actually from Ontario. You're from a landlocked province, but
Yeah.
lots of lakes. But so how did your love for the ocean and like that call to go and live by the ocean, how did that come about? When did it start?
Yeah, it's super interesting because I even remember being like really young and having such a strong desire to see the ocean. And when I was 12, we went on a trip to Florida, and we got to go to the first beach we saw that was an ocean beach was Cocoa Beach in Florida. And I remember it so vividly. And I was like, wow, that's what it is. And it's interesting. I never really like saw it in person before, but I always just had this
Mhm.
like calling to it. Um, and that calling continued throughout my life. And I went to university, and I started I just really wanted to go be by the ocean, and I got interested in Halifax, and I went there one summer. I had a couple of friends from university who lived there, and it just kind of once I got to Halifax and visited for a month, I was like, "Yep, my personality matches this place." And
Mhm.
then later on, I found out there was surfing, and then that was kind of it. It really, and
Yeah.
it's just kind of led me further and further.
Yeah. And then you eventually have based your entire career on your connection to the ocean. Like the way that you approach your work has a lot to do with your connection to the ocean. So I'm wondering if you want to speak about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of just happened. Like, I know that sounds hilarious, but uh, I think, or I really felt the call. And when I got more and more into surfing, I realized I was going to have to orient my life closer and closer to the ocean. So it kind of got me to venture into more rural living in like a more surf town. And the more time I spent there, the more I started to understand my relationship with the ocean and how deep it actually was. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, when you're young and you're figuring out who you are and what you want, and I always just like return to the water as a place of healing and solace. And once I started doing instruction, I really started to notice my love of teaching, but not just teaching surf, teaching people and relating with them and connecting with them. I'd done that in my life outside of water sports, but it was really that relationship that brought it into my awareness in a new way.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really it was really how much it healed me and how I witnessed it healing others. And it all just kind of came together. But it was through those things but it was the vessel was surfing, which was
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
I'm just gonna put your website up on here for our listeners. So this is Rachel's website. She's an intuitive healer and like life coach, business coach, like all the things. And actually, I've personally worked with Rachel before and had like an incredibly healing and growth experience with her. And yeah, so thank you
Oh,
for
thank you.
being who you have been in my life. And I just wanted to say to the listeners that if you are feeling called to work with Rachel and you're feeling called to work towards a greater purpose, then check out her website. And yeah, I was wondering if if you wanted to explain the name of your company because of this connection with the ocean and how that has to do with your work.
Yeah, and thank you so much. I love working with you. It was so fun. And so, yeah, so rewarding. Yeah, the name just came to me. I was working with the Akashic Records, which is a kind of an intuitive style. It's a specific genre of reading. And I was just in my own records, and that name came. And this is when I had the desire for me to work with people and figure out exactly what that looked like was so strong that I kind of just like moved everything out of the way and just focused. And so I was in this very time of deep reflection, and that's when the name just kind of popped in.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I like that, you know?
Yeah.
And over time, it really has the name. I understand the depth of it now. It makes a lot of sense, you know? We talk a lot about alchemy and like alchemizing the moment, and it comes through when we feel emotions and resonate with different parts of ourselves. And I just notice a lot of how we relate to ourselves, our own emotional waters, and how we relate to the ocean. And that
Mm-hmm.
is really truly alchemy when you're witnessing it and presencing it. I could go on so many different tangents with it, with this name and what I've kind of thought of over time, but yeah, I would have to say it's like the healing of the feminine and globally and in the water, and yeah, a bunch of different things. So
Yeah.
personally, emotionally, collectively, and through nature, because I
Mm-hmm.
want to work more and more with people and their relationship to nature. So
Mm-hmm. It's so important.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you have told us that your connection to the ocean goes uh, all the way to your youth, right? How does that love for the ocean flow in your day to day? Like in your day to day, what is a normal Rachel's day?
Oh, cool question. Yeah. Well, I usually wake up and have a cup of coffee and sit and look in my living room. And Christine's been in my living room, and I just stare at the
Beautiful, beautiful
ocean
spot.
for a
Mm-hmm.
while. It's half ocean, half river where I am. So there's ocean like right beside me, but just like my specific window. But I would still say it has the ocean energy.
Yeah.
And either I'll do a surf check, or like I always find myself at a beach. Like I'm super, super blessed to live on the Cabot Trail. So I can pretty much go to any beach in that area. And or I simply just smell it in the air because it's everywhere. So day to day, I'm always around it in some way, and I'm really grateful to have that. That's a true gift.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, the Cabot Trail is so gorgeous.
It's
Um,
crazy.
yeah. I was lucky enough to actually be able to visit Rachel a few weeks ago now, maybe a month,
Yeah,
and stay on the Cabot Trail for a weekend or 3 or 4 days, and it was so gorgeous. Like the beaches, the cliffs, the just it's ocean everywhere. It's
the
so beautiful.
mountains.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
so cool. Yeah, I'm so glad you're able to
Waterfalls right
come.
on the ocean.
I know.
Yeah.
So I have another question. Like,
Yeah.
for me, the ocean also has healing properties, if we want to call them like that, but not for everyone is the same. For you, how is that sense of healing represented?
Can you clarify what you're so it's healing for everybody or for me
Yes.
specifically?
I mean, no, for you. Like, I mean, everyone feels the ocean in a different way.
Okay.
So, how is that healing represented for you personally?
Yeah, I think it's actually in the thing that's coming to my mind is the feeling when you like dunk your head in and you feel like super like rejuvenated. It's almost like the minerals that are in the water too seem to like nourish you. I feel like that's like how it heals me, honestly. It's just like being immersed in it.
Mm.
And other ways as well, but just like definitely that the most. It feels like, yeah, if I'm, you always will feel better after being in the water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I just remembered like a conversation that we had a long time ago about like the ocean, also its ability to hold you because it's
Yeah.
so buoyant, right? But then like the movement of the ocean, and I guess you kind of get used to that when you're surfing. Like when you've been surfing long enough, you learn how to not fight against the motion of the ocean, but let it like hold you and move you. And like that feeling when you're on a steep beach and then the wave comes up and sort of like picks you up and puts you back onto the beach is like, I think for me, like that's one of my favorite feelings is like just letting the ocean just like pick me up and put me back on the beach. Like
Yeah.
it's so beautiful.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love what you mentioned about surfing, how you learn to kind of like dance with it. Of course, you're dancing on the waves, but also it's like, we don't fight when we fall off and we get like we go under or something happens. Like we're really actually like most surfers are pretty surrendered to that feeling.
Yeah.
And because we just understand how she speaks and how she works, and we never you learn really early that you can't fight it.
Yeah.
And the more you fight it, the more you suffer and more tired you get. And the more you like flow with her, it's like if you watch her, an incredibly good surfer, they almost like maneuver. It doesn't even look like there's just no way that
Mhm.
somebody who hasn't done that for a long time and sat with her could do that. It's an incredible thing to watch.
Yeah. I guess that comes back to like the give and take thing that you were mentioning before is like if you are completely surrendering and you're not fighting against the ocean, then you're actually working together.
That's true.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Very cool.
So,
So,
what? Sorry,
oh,
go.
no, go
You,
ahead.
no, you go first.
Nope, nope, nope.
Okay.
What a Canadian
Okay.
moment. I
So,
know Claudia's not in
No,
Canada, but you
sorry,
might as
sorry,
well
sorry.
be.
so what would you recommend to people who is scared of the ocean and
Yeah.
want to start approaching it to be able to feel
Mm,
what we feel? Like we feel different stuff, but we have something in common. Is that for us is our healing place.
hmm.
So, what would you recommend to those people who maybe have depression or fight with any mental situation? So,
Yeah, and that's such a good question because there's a lot that could be a big topic in itself. Um, I actually, if somebody wants to approach the ocean and wants to get more comfortable, the first thing I actually say is to honor the fact that you have fear of it, because I don't think it's wise to actually be fearless in the ocean. I think there's like a deep respect and kind of understanding of your limits in it. So I think some fear is actually very healthy. And then we have experiences that can obviously create that kind of resistance for us. And that's a bit of a different thing. And so the first thing would be understanding that she is big and powerful, and that's okay to be scared. I'm sometimes scared of the ocean. Like, like it's not, even though I'm interacting with it all the time. And then to answer the part, if you want to learn how to approach it and you have anxieties or fears or traumas or experiences, well, one, start to really like look at that in a safe place. Start to think about, well, what is it exactly about it that makes me feel fearful? And kind of feel into the deeper part of that. And if you're so bold as to maybe step slightly out of your comfort zone, maybe put your feet in the water and see how you feel, and do this in a place where you have a friend, you know, always like have a buddy with you that you feel safe with, right? And just test small. And if you feel like that's too much, that's okay. Know that there's nothing wrong with you. We all have these things to work through in our own way, and some are really big things. So I think it's like honoring how you feel, and then also slightly and understanding the deeper part of that, and also then kind of inching forward. And when you work through, just like the alchemy, right? When you work through the feeling, you do tend to overcome things by just dissolving the feeling itself.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yes.
It's a good question.
I wondered.
Yeah, I know. Sorry again.
Oh my gosh! No.
No, it's just that I know a lot of people that is afraid of the ocean, and I tell them that like it's not that I'm not afraid when I go into the ocean. Like it has happened stuff to me as well, but I try not to give them a lot of importance. So I keep going, and that's it. But there are some people that are afraid of the feeling of that is so big that you are nothing compared to it. So that is the real truth.
It is the truth.
Yeah, it's the truth. We're nothing, and when we are pushed by a wave like very far, and we can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So thank you. That was a very good advice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. I think like there are certain things you have to know about the ocean too, right? Like you have to know about rip currents. You have to know how to deal with those sorts of things. Yeah, I know of a lot of people too that are scared of putting their face in the water, like because it just like causes them to feel
Dizzy, something.
So like they're suffocating because they don't know how, like I don't know. I guess they're scared that they won't be able to like take their head back out or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess those are things that you would have to learn slowly over time to overcome that fear, right?
Well, if you don't learn how to swim when you're young, it's harder to learn when you're older, right? And there's
True.
When you're younger, like the whole nostril, like not breathing in under the water is something that becomes automatic if you are exposed to water in general is when you're young. But if you're doing it when you're older, you don't have that kind of muscle memory in your, you know, things that we do unconsciously, right? And even in the training that I just did, a lot of people who don't have that experience as a kid, it can be really scary for them because they have to learn not only how to swim, but they also have to learn how to train their breathing system.
Like the muscle memory, the reflex. Wow.
Like we just know to not breathe underwater, right? But that if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah. Wow. I never really thought of it that way.
Yeah.
I have like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad. I have people in my life that are scared to swim like for that reason. And I've just been like, oh, don't worry. Like, it's no big deal. I'll take you out. I need to be a little bit more gentle.
Yeah, I learned a lot in this training. And also I think the North Preston Freedom Swell, they talked a lot about swimming as well and learning that at a younger age. And I think that film also really articulated a lot of things that, a lot of important things to discuss with all things learning to swim.
Yeah. Yeah. I wondered, because when I wrote your bio, in it is the word Dharma as part of your work and the way that you work with people. Wondering if you could tell our listeners what Dharma is what you like, how you have sort of come into your own dharma, and then sort of how that flows into the work that you do with your clients.
Yeah. So how I perceive dharma and how I've perceived it over time is everybody comes into this experience with a mission or that you could fulfill. It's not required, but you do kind of have this calling that comes forth. And you can usually see little snippets of it when somebody's a kid. That's because it's very pure. And then we kind of go through life, and sometimes we're on the path of our highest path, and other times we're doing what society wants us to do, and or what we're like, what most people do or what our parents want, whatever. But our path kind of sits within us. Our dharma is always in there, always waiting to be accessed. But kind of part of your dharma is actually your experiences growing up and everything. So it's not like I think the karma and dharma wheel can make it feel like you can't get to your dharma unless you do a certain thing. I honestly believe that every part of your path actually is super important, and what's really for you, you can't not experience. But what I work with people, and what I really focus on is the fact that we have these experiences in our lives where we have programming or what have you that kind of gets us off our center. And the whole goal of allowing your mission to naturally come through you, it's one of the most natural things to you. We have to clear away the stuff that's not us. So the stuff that we've picked up that doesn't actually work for us, that keeps our energy in another direction, keeps us distracted. And when we get clear through energetic healing or through really focusing or just doing the deeper emotional work, we find that we're more in our bodies again. We're not up in fight or flight. We're more rested. We're more rooted. We're more open. Our energy really naturally opens up. We naturally let go of things that don't work for us. Sometimes it's like easy, other times it's really hard, and you have to have the hard conversations. But with that, the dharma it naturally shines when you do that kind of inner work and inner process. And what I like to do with people is, I think one gift that I have is I can really see that in people and really amplify it. But ultimately, it's so that the person can see it in themselves and realize that, and then amplify it in their own life, and then know the tools that they need and to send them on their way with what they,
Yeah.
So that's just my method, but yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I think that is really important, because sometimes in our lives, when we grow up, we want something, and when we when we start moving forward, we see that it's not as easy as we thought before. Like, at least in my case, I studied marine biology as well, but since I finished my degree, like I've studied some more stuff, and then we can find something that we really liked, and it's like very frustrating. Like, I've told Christine all the time, it's frustrating, and I guess a lot of people feel like I feel, because it's like, do you think that is my real call? Because it's not easy. So sometimes we look in some other stuff to see or to fill that void that we have. So that's pretty good. Like, the guidance that you do is really important. Like, at least for people like us, or for people like me that sometimes feel confused of what it wants. Like, I know that I love marine biology, like, since always. And now the work we are doing with Christine really fills me. It's really good. So,
Beautiful.
yeah, so
Yay.
let's hope everything gets so much better. This is gonna be great.
Yeah.
Well, I also think that sometimes part of your struggle and what you go through actually is a part of your mission, in the sense that you're here to change the game. You're here to do something different, right? So it's like, maybe like let's say you work in a workplace and you discover things about like marine policy that you realize aren't right, and you have this experience of like how much you don't like it and how wrong it is, but it's actually a part of your mission to have that experience and to use that energy and alchemize it and turn it into the thing that the world needs, which is like the updated policy, the whatever, the, you know what I mean? Creating a company that teaches and educates. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it is actually almost all part of it, but it's hard to, I mean, you know,
It's
we
like
don't,
kind
it's,
of the universe is teaching something in the hard way.
yeah.
Something like that.
Hmm.
Oh well.
It's all part of the process.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. And I guess that's kind of links us back to the idea of the ocean too, and like working with those waves, you know?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Surfing is one of the best metaphors for like spiritual concepts in living life. Like I find it like you could just talk endlessly about the metaphors of the ocean and surfing and then like relate it to life. It literally
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I wonder actually, just before we get to our last question, what is your favorite feeling about surfing?
oh my God. Like while I'm actually surfing or
Yeah.
like the whole thing?
Uh, I
Both.
don't know. If you have something that's your favorite that's not actually while you're surfing, then definitely say that. But yeah, what,
Yeah,
whatever
I'll
yours
say
is your favorite.
I'll say both things like in the water and out of the water.
Okay.
Um, in the water, I think it's the drop, you
Mm,
know, the feeling of when you're just first and then you get that first bottom turn and it's just like, you know, it just feels
mhm.
so good to just like be locked in. Um, and obviously all the maneuvers too, but there's something about the drop is like, oh, it's like so thrilling. And
Yeah.
then everything around surfing is like, I love the adventure of like discovering waves and like um, kind of the journey and like because sometimes like I was thinking about this on my way home because I actually moved like farther like I lived in like a surf mecca kind of and now I live in like a very special area of the world but it's not as consistent, right?
Yeah.
And so I actually travel more than I did before, but I'm happier. And
Mm,
because I'm discovering waves that maybe haven't been surfed before and I'm also like and sorry, what I was thinking about in the car was like every surfer has to kind of come to terms with being disappointed and how to deal
mhm.
with that a lot. And
Yeah.
I remember I surfed this morning for the photo shoot, and I scored the best waves at this beach that I have yet. And I've driven other times, and it's 2.5 hours from my house to like, and I've the one of the first times I drove there, like it was like 1 foot, and I was
Yeah.
so like oh, but like it's the whole journey of being a surfer and like the highs and the thrills and like you don't even think it's gonna be
Yeah.
that good and all of a sudden you get there and it's amazing. It's like it's that whole variance that you it's never certain and I think that's actually what makes me love it because I'm always gonna be seeking it and it's always gonna be an adventure.
That's so true. And yeah, I like as I'm listening to you say this, I'm like, yeah, I think I feel the same way. Like,
Yeah.
there is something thrilling about like, oh, the surf forecast looks good. I'm gonna try to ditch out of work early so that I can go and see if there's waves, and then like not knowing what it's gonna look like when you get there. Maybe the wind is gonna change. Like you never know, and then that's totally part of it.
Yeah. It's the
Yeah.
whole thing, you
Yeah.
know?
Cool. So I guess we can close off. Thank you so much. But I want to ask you one more question.
Yeah.
What would you like to tell the world about the ocean? Like, what do you wish that people knew about the ocean?
That the ocean wants to interact with you too. I know that's like I remember you asking me that question before a couple weeks ago and then thinking about it today. That answer is still true. The ocean wants to play with you. It wants to have a
Mhm.
relationship with you. And the more you foster that relationship, the more it can actually grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's a great message. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is so lovely.
This has been great. So thank you everybody for joining us for our 8th My Ocean Story with Rachel Kirkham. Her website is here if you want to check her out. And we will be posting within the next couple of weeks about our My Ocean Story number 9. So stay tuned. And thanks again. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.